Vi står här på Nasdaq, Stockholmsbörsen i Frihamnen. Där Austin Lally, vd för Verisure, precis ringde i klockan. Och det är rena rama halleluja-stämningen här. Finansmarknadsminister Niklas Wykman är här. Börschefen Adam Kostial är såklart här. Och kader av rödklädda Verisure-medarbetare här. Och det är svårt att inte dras med av entusiasmen när handeln i Verisures aktie precis just nu sätter igång.
This is a big day for you. Tell us how has it been so far?
Well, it's been quite exciting. You know, we had the chance to be here at Nasdaq Stockholm with more than 300 of our own Verisure employees and advisors and teammates. And a big celebration because this is a big step for the company. You know, we've been preparing for this a long time. I mean, I've been CEO for more than 11 years. And we always knew that one day, because of our scale and because of the international expansion of the company, that the natural home of the company would be public markets. And so, you know, here we are.
And Verisure is being listed here in Stockholm today. Why Stockholm?
It was a logical choice because we started in Sweden. We sold our first alarm system here in 1988. I always describe Sweden as the spiritual home of the company. And it's still a very important market for us. It's our third biggest in terms of customer portfolio, but it's also where the largest number of our R&D employees are based. We've got a big technology center in Malmborg, and that's creating the technology platform that's driving the performance across the whole company.
And why did you choose euros instead of Swedish krona?
Yeah, because the vast majority of our revenues are in euros and our profitability is in euros. And it's, I think, better, more coherent to have your revenue and your profit delivery aligned with your share price. And we don't see a problem because the Nasdaq has the systems to handle this perfectly. And we think it's even good for the Nasdaq because perhaps it will illustrate to other European businesses that they could also come to the Nasdaq and to trade in euros.
But it could be a problem. It could limit some Swedish institutions from investing in Verisure. Have you considered this?
We haven't seen that phenomenon. What we've actually seen is really strong interest and support from Swedish institutions. Now, what we like about Nasdaq Stockholm is there's strong support from the Swedish investor community, but it hasn't been a barrier to the international investor community. And we're going to end up with a shareholder base which is quite balanced between Swedish institutions and international institutions.
So the share has been oversubscribed many times, and I read somewhere that about the average subscription for is 40 stocks per person, or stocks per person per account. What's your reaction to this?
Well, we attracted to the company today more than 60,000 Swedish investors on the retail offering. We were delighted with this because in terms of total size, it's the third biggest retail offering, you know, that you've ever had here in Stockholm, but it was very oversubscribed. Huge demand, you know, for participation. And the choice you have is, you know, do you try and let everybody participate, or do you cancel people and go to a smaller group? And we've chosen to widen participation, and that's why the allocations have ended up like this.
And the free float is, correct me here, it's somewhere between 10 and 20% of the stocks. Rather small. Is it enough to create substantial liquidity, do you think?
We think it's sufficient. And I think that the real game for us, of course, is long-term investors who hold and help the company grow over time. But there, of course, has to be sufficient liquidity in the market for that to function.
You prepared for this in 12 years, you said. Has it been a smooth transition to dressing Verisure up for an unlisted environment?
Well, we've got a track record that goes back a long time. I mean, I'm in my 12th year as CEO. You know, we can point to more than a decade of uninterrupted double-digit annual recurring revenue growth. So when investors look at the company, they're not looking at short-term or something that's been made, you know, to look a bit better in the short term. They can actually look at a really detailed long-term track record. If you go to our investor relations website or our prospectus, I mean, it's a long-term story that we tell. And the transition to public markets for us has always been our destination, and therefore we've tried to run the company to the same high standards that people would expect from a public stock.
So the obvious effect of this IPO is it brings down Verisure's debt. Elaborate what this means to your strategy.
I think the lower levels of debt are at a level now 3 times leverage, which public markets are comfortable with. You know, we recognise that if you like, the comfort level on leverage is different in a private environment to a public environment. And so in the move towards this IPO, we've been progressively reducing leverage. This effectively transaction repays about 2.7 billion euros of debt. That takes the leverage to 3. What we've then guided on is that by the end of 2026, we should bring the leverage down further between 2.75 turns and 2.5 turns. And I think longer term, we would expect the leverage to rest at about 2.5 turns.
Thank you, Austin Lally.
Thank you.